Summer 2019, San Antonio, Texas. For most couples, a beach holiday in Cancun is the ultimate getaway. White sandy beaches, crystal clear Caribbean waters, and the chance to reconnect far away from the stresses of everyday life. For Jennifer Morrison, 38, the upcoming trip was like a lifeline she desperately needed to save her 13-year marriage. Jennifer had been looking forward to this holiday for months. She had booked the resort herself, a beautiful all-inclusive resort in Cancun's famous hotel zone, with rooms overlooking the sea and unlimited access to the pool bars. The brochures showed couples laughing over tropical drinks, walking hand in hand along the beach and rediscovering the romance that had originally brought them together. What Jennifer didn't know was that this holiday would be her last. The man she was traveling with, her husband of 13 years, former Texas police officer David Morrison, 42, had something else entirely planned during those long Mexican nights. Something that had nothing to do with romance, but with anger, jealousy, and a sense of entitlement that came from years of exercising authority over others. The American Dream Couple. To understand how their story ended in tragedy, we need to understand how it began. David and Jennifer Morrison had once been the epitome of the American dream. They had met in 2005 at a charity barbecue in San Antonio. David was a highly decorated police officer with the San Antonio Police Department, respected by his colleagues and well known in the community. He had that impressive charisma that many police officers develop. Confident, authoritative, someone who was expected to be listened to and obeyed. Jennifer worked as a dental hygienist at a popular practice in the north of the city. She was known for her warm smile, her patience with nervous patients, and her ability to make even the most anxious children feel comfortable in the dentist's chair. Friends described her as the most lovable person you could imagine, always helpful, always willing to put others first, sometimes even to her own detriment. Their relationship developed quickly. David courted Jennifer with an intensity that she initially found flattering. He called several times a day, wanted to know her schedule, and insisted on picking her up from work. What Jennifer interpreted as devotion, others might have recognized as early warning signs of controlling behavior. But Jennifer had grown up in a traditional household where male authority was respected and even expected. David's assertive nature seemed perfectly natural to her. They married in 2006 in a beautiful ceremony at a historic mission in San Antonio. Jennifer wore her grandmother's lace veil. David looked incredibly handsome in his dress uniform. Their wedding photos showed a couple beaming with happiness. David's arm possessively around Jennifer's waist, Jennifer looking up at him with complete trust and adoration. In the early years, life seemed good. They bought a modest 3-bedroom house in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Jennifer continued to work at the dental practice. David rose through the ranks and eventually became a detective. They talked about having children, but somehow the timing never seemed quite right. Yet beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect marriage, cracks had been forming for years. The mask begins to crumble. Friends and family later recalled that David had always been possessive, but after a few years of marriage, his behavior intensified. He didn't like Jennifer going out with her friends. He questioned her about every male patient at the dental practice. He constantly tracked her mobile phone location and demanded to know exactly where she was at all times. He literally texted her 20, 30 times a day, recalls Jennifer's best friend Maria Santos. Not loving messages, demanding messages. Where are you? Who are you with? Why haven't you replied? Jennifer always made excuses for him. She said he was protective because he loved her so much, and that as a police officer, he was very security conscious. But it wasn't love. It was control. In 2015, David left the police force. The official reason was to pursue other opportunities. but those familiar with the situation knew that there had been complaints about his aggressive behavior toward suspects and his colleagues. Several internal investigations were launched, but they did not result in any formal charges. The authority offered him the opportunity to resign, and he accepted. Without the structure and identity that came with being a police officer, David seemed to spiral downward. He started a private security consulting firm that never really took off. Money became tight, he drank more and more, and his jealousy of Jennifer became paranoid and irrational. He accused her of having affairs with dentists from the practice, with neighbors, and with random men he assumed she had looked at in the supermarket. The accusations were unfounded and absurd. Despite the problems in her marriage, Jennifer was faithful and still hoped that the man she had married would somehow come back. The verbal attacks escalated. Then came the first incident of physical violence. The night, everything changed. It was March 2018 when David pushed Jennifer during an argument over a minor issue. She had forgotten to buy his favorite brand of beer at the shop. She fell backwards and hit her head on the kitchen counter. She had a concussion and a black eye that was visible for 2 weeks. Jennifer told all her colleagues that she had fallen while cleaning. She also tried to convince herself he had been drinking. He was under stress. It had been an accident. Afterwards he had cried, apologized, and promised that it would never happen again. But of course it happened again. Over the course of the next year, there were further incidents. A bruise on her arm where he had grabbed her too hard, a split lip from a backhand slap, fingerprint bruises around her neck after he had grabbed her in his rage. Jennifer became an expert at hiding injuries with makeup and long sleeves. In early 2019, she confided in Maria, her closest friend, in a tearful conversation. "I don't know who he is anymore," Jennifer whispered as she sat in Maria's kitchen. "Sometimes I look at him and recognize the man I married. But sometimes I see this anger in his eyes, and I don't recognize him at all. He scares me, Maria. I'm actually afraid of my own husband." Maria begged Jennifer to leave him, file for divorce, and go to a women's shelter. But Jennifer was paralyzed by fear, financial dependence, and the desperate hope that things might change for the better. "He promised to go to therapy," Jennifer said. "He admits he has anger issues. He wants to work on it. He suggested we take a holiday, just the two of us, to get closer again. If we just get away from all the stress here, maybe we can remember why we fell in love." Maria felt a chill when Jennifer said those words. Going on holiday alone with a violent partner didn't sound like healing. It sounded dangerous. But Jennifer had made up her mind. She had to believe that her marriage could still be saved. Planning paradise. In the spring of 2019, Jennifer threw herself into planning the trip to Cancún. She obsessively researched resorts, read hundreds of reviews, and carefully put together a budget for the best experience they could afford. This holiday was supposed to be a fresh start, a chance to rebuild what they had lost. David seemed enthusiastic too, although there was an undertone to his excitement that made Jennifer uncomfortable. He insisted on controlling all the logistics: when they would leave, where they would go, what activities they would do. He didn't want her to plan anything with other couples at the resort. It was about them, he said, just the two of them. "We need time alone to work on our relationship," David told her. "No distractions, no other people, just you and me, figuring out how to make things right again." The trip was planned for the end of June, just before the peak of hurricane season, when prices were cheaper. They would be staying at the Royal Caribbean Resort, a large, popular, all-inclusive resort that Jennifer had read wonderful reviews about. In the weeks leading up to the trip, David's mood swings intensified. One day he was excited about the holiday and looking for things to do in Cancún. The next day he was suspicious, asking why Jennifer wanted to wear a new swimsuit and accusing her of wanting to attract the attention of other men at the resort. "You're going to embarrass me," he said. "If you dress like that and act like you're single, everyone will think my wife is a slut." Jennifer tried to calm him down and explain that she just wanted to look good for him, that she loved him and would never do anything to jeopardize their marriage. But nothing she said seemed to allay his paranoia. The last days before departure, in the last week before her flight, Jennifer almost cancelled the trip. David had been drinking heavily, and his accusations were becoming increasingly erratic. He had repeatedly searched her mobile phone, looking through every text message and email, searching for evidence of infidelity that did not exist. "Please don't make me go," she said to Maria over coffee 3 days before their planned departure. "I have this terrible feeling, like something bad is going to happen." "Then don't go," Maria urged. "Tell him you're sick. Cancel the booking. Better to lose the money than put yourself in danger." But Jennifer felt trapped. She had already taken time off work. They had paid for the holiday, money they couldn't really afford. And if she cancelled now, David's anger would erupt like a volcano. At least in Cancún there would be other people around. They would be in public. He couldn't do anything too crazy if there were witnesses nearby, or could he? On 24th June 2019, David and Jennifer Morrison boarded a Southwest Airlines flight from San Antonio to Cancún International Airport. Jennifer sent Maria one last text message from the airport. "Here we go. Wish me luck. I'll text you when we land." She included a selfie of herself and David at the gate. In the photo, David has his arm around Jennifer's shoulders and is pulling her close. He smiles at the camera and looks like any other excited husband going on holiday with his wife. But if you look closely at Jennifer's eyes in this photo, you can see something that doesn't match her smile. You can see fear. This text message was the last message Maria would ever receive from her best friend. Jennifer Morrison would never return from Cancún. And the man who killed her, the former police officer who knew exactly how to manipulate crime scenes, who knew the weaknesses of international investigations, who felt entitled to decide his wife's life and death, would spend the next week convincing everyone that her death was a terrible accident. This is the story of how he failed. This is the story of how the arrogance of a perpetrator and the courage of a victim ultimately brought a murderer to justice, even though he tried to hide behind his brand and his carefully constructed lies. This is the story of Jennifer Morrison's last holiday. The heat hit them like a wall as they stepped off the plane at Cancún International Airport shortly after 3 p.m. local time on 24 June 2019. Jennifer felt the humid Caribbean air envelop her as they walked across the tarmac to the terminal, a dense, tropical warmth so different from the dry heat of Texas she was used to. As she stood in the customs queue, surrounded by tourists from all over the world chatting excitedly in different languages, Jennifer felt a small spark of hope for a moment. Maybe it would work. Maybe leaving San Antonio, the stress and tension of their everyday lives behind them, would actually help them grow closer again. David seemed relaxed for the first time in months. He joked with the customs officer and showed his natural charm, the side of him that Jennifer had fallen in love with all those years ago. The officer stamped their passports with a smile and welcomed them to Mexico. "See," David said as they collected their luggage, "this will do us good. A new place, a new start." Jennifer wanted so badly to believe him. The shuttle ride to the Royal Caribbean Resort took about 25 minutes and took them along the famous hotel zone, that narrow strip of land between the Caribbean Sea and Nishupte Lagoon, lined with huge resort complexes. Their driver, a cheerful Mexican named Carlos, pointed out sights and recommended restaurants, delivering his rehearsed tourism spiel with genuine warmth. Jennifer stared out the window at the turquoise water, at couples walking hand in hand along the beach, at families splashing in the resort pools. Everywhere she looked, people seemed happy, carefree, secure. She glanced at David. He was checking his mobile phone, his jaw tense. The relaxed attitude he had displayed at the airport had already begun to fade. Check-in and first warning signs. The Royal Caribbean Resort was huge, a sprawling complex with 3 separate towers, several pools, 6 restaurants, and its own pristine stretch of beach. They checked in at the reception desk, where a pretty young woman named Isabella processed their reservation with efficient friendliness. "You are in the Coral Tower, room 827, with a sea view," Isabella explained in perfect English. "All meals and drinks are included. We offer activities throughout the day: beach volleyball, salsa lessons, snorkeling trips. There's a pool party tonight at 8 p.m. if you're interested." "We're not interested," David said curtly, cutting Jennifer off before she could reply. "We're here to enjoy our privacy, not to party with strangers." Isabella's smile flickered slightly, but remained professional. "Of course. Enjoy your stay." As they walked to the lifts, Jennifer felt the familiar feeling of anxiety in her stomach. David's hand gripped her elbow, not gently, but with that controlling pressure she had come to recognize. "You looked at the man at the reception desk," David said quietly, as they waited for the lift. "What man?" Jennifer was genuinely confused. "The security guard. You smiled at him." "David, I didn't notice any security guard. I was looking at the lobby." "Don't lie to me, Jennifer." His voice was calm, which somehow made it even more threatening. "I saw you. We've been here 10 minutes and you're already starting." The lift doors opened. They got in with 2 other couples, so David had to change the subject. But Jennifer could feel his anger radiating beside her like heat from a furnace. Room 827 was beautiful. A spacious suite with a king-size bed, a balcony overlooking the sea, and a bathroom with a marble whirlpool tub. Under different circumstances, Jennifer would have been thrilled. Instead, she felt trapped. David immediately went out onto the balcony and lit a cigarette, even though it was a non-smoking room. Jennifer began unpacking, trying to create a sense of normalcy, a routine that might calm the storm she sensed brewing. "I'm going to take a shower," she announced. "Then maybe we could go for a walk on the beach before dinner." David didn't answer. He just stood on the balcony, smoking and staring out at the sea with an expression she couldn't read. The first night that evening, they ate at the resort's Italian restaurant, a beautiful open-air restaurant overlooking the sunset over the Caribbean. Jennifer ordered lobster ravioli. David had steak and drank his 4th beer of the evening. Couples laughed and chatted around them. A family at the next table was celebrating their daughter's quinceañera, everyone dressed up and happy. Jennifer watched them with painful longing. This was what holidays should be like. This was what normality looked like. "You're not eating anything," David remarked. "I am eating. It's delicious. You keep looking around, looking at other people, other men." "David, please, I'm not. There's a man at the bar who's been watching you since we sat down." Jennifer didn't even turn around. She had learned that responding to his paranoid accusations only made the situation worse. "I love you," she said instead. "I'm here with you. That's all that matters." But that wasn't enough. It was never enough. After dinner, David wanted to go back to the room. Jennifer had hoped they could go for a walk on the beach, maybe have a drink by the pool, but she didn't argue with him. Arguing was dangerous. Back in the room, David drank rum from the minibar while watching Mexican football on TV. Jennifer sat on the balcony and texted Maria. "We made it. The resort is beautiful. We're going to bed early tonight. We're tired from the flight. I love you." She almost added, "Please pray for me." But then she deleted it. Maria shouldn't worry any more than she already did. David appeared in the balcony door. "Who are you texting?" "Just Maria. I told her we arrived safely." "Show me your phone." It wasn't a request. Jennifer handed it to him, her heart pounding. David scrolled through her messages, her recent calls, her photos. He searched for evidence of betrayal that existed only in his increasingly disturbed mind. Finally, he gave it back to her. "Put it on the bedside table tonight. I want to know where it is." Jennifer nodded. She had long since stopped fighting these little battles. "Choose your battles wisely," her therapist had told her years ago. "Save your energy for the big ones." She just hadn't realized that the biggest battle of her life was less than 24 hours away. Day 2. The tension rises. Tuesday morning dawned bright and beautiful. When Jennifer woke up, David was already up and doing push-ups on the balcony, a habit from his time with the police that he had kept to this day. As she watched him through the sliding glass door, she could almost pretend for a moment that everything was normal. They had breakfast at the buffet. David criticized Jennifer's food choices. Too many carbohydrates, not enough protein. He commented on her summer dress. Too revealing, too attention-seeking. When she asked if they could try the snorkeling trip, he said it was a waste of money, since everything had already been paid for. "We'll just stay by the pool," he decided. Nice and simple. But nothing was simple that day. At the pool, David's paranoia reached new heights. He accused Jennifer of deliberately choosing a deck chair near a group of college-aged men. He claimed she was showing off in her swimsuit. When she went to the bar to order drinks, he timed how long she was gone. 4.5 minutes, he said when she returned with 2 piña coladas. "Why did it take so long?" "There was a queue, David. There were other people there ordering drinks." "Did you talk to anyone?" "The bartender looked familiar." "I ordered drinks, that's all." His hand shot out, grabbed her wrist and squeezed so hard it hurt. "Don't lie to me." A woman at the next table looked over at them with concern. David immediately let go of Jennifer's wrist and smiled, that charming, public smile he had perfected over the years. "Sorry, darling," he said loudly enough for the woman to hear. "I didn't mean to grab you so hard. These glasses are so slippery." The woman smiled uncertainly and looked away. The moment had passed. Jennifer rubbed her wrist under her towel, knowing she would have bruises tomorrow. That afternoon, back in their room, David demanded sex. Jennifer agreed. It was easier than refusing, and sometimes it calmed him down. But afterwards, as she lay in bed while David showered, Jennifer stared at the ceiling and felt something change inside her. She couldn't do this anymore. This wasn't marriage. It was captivity, and here, in this foreign country with an increasingly unstable man, it suddenly became crystal clear to her what danger she was actually in. She had to get away. Maybe not right away, but soon. She would return to San Antonio, file for divorce, and stay with Maria until she had figured out what to do next. It had been a mistake to come here. She had made many mistakes. But she could still fix this. She just had to get through the next 5 days. Jennifer didn't know she had less than a day to live. Wednesday morning. Jennifer woke up with a strange feeling of calm. During a sleepless night, she had made her decision. She would leave David. Not here in Cancun, but as soon as they returned to San Antonio. She had already played it out in her head. Pack a bag while he was away, go to Maria's house, apply for a restraining order, file for divorce. Now she just had to get through the next 4 days, keep him calm, avoid confrontation, play the role of the dutiful wife one last time. David seemed to sense the change in her. At breakfast, he watched her with suspicious eyes. "You're so quiet," he said. "I'm just tired. I didn't sleep well." "Why?" "The air conditioning was loud." A lie, but a harmless one. They spent the day at the beach. David drank incessantly, 1 beer after another in the brutal midday sun. His mood fluctuated between cheerful and hostile, sometimes within minutes. Jennifer learned to interpret the warning signs, the tension around his jaw, the way his fingers drummed on the armrest of his beach chair, the cold look in his eyes. Around 4 p.m., a young couple set up their chairs nearby. The woman was blonde, athletic, probably in her late 20s. Her boyfriend was tall, tattooed, and obviously very attentive to her. Jennifer watched them out of the corner of her eye and envied their casual affection. The way he applied sunscreen to her back without being asked, the way she laughed at his jokes, the way they looked at each other with love, not fear. "You're staring at him," David said suddenly. "What?" "The guy, the one with the tattoos. You can't take your eyes off him." "David, I hardly notice them." "Do you think I'm stupid?" His voice grew louder. Other beachgoers began to look over. "Do you think I don't see what you're doing? Showing off in that swimsuit and devouring every man on this beach with your eyes?" Jennifer quickly stood up. "Let's go back to the room." "Oh, now you want to go back to the room, now that I've confronted you about your slutty behaviour." The couple next to them were now clearly watching them, concern written all over their faces. Jennifer felt her cheeks burn with shame. "Please," she whispered, "let's just go." David stood up abruptly and swayed slightly, drunk and dangerous. "Fine, let's talk about your behaviour." Jennifer's heart sank. She knew what talks meant, but she had no choice. She followed him back to the resort, her heart pounding, already thinking about what she would say to soften the coming storm. The final confrontation. Back in room 827, David's anger exploded the moment the door closed. "Who is he?" David demanded to know. "Who is who?" "David, there's no one." "The guy you've been texting, the guy you want to fuck behind my back." "That's not true. I was only texting Maria." "A liar." He grabbed her mobile phone from the bedside table and threw it against the wall. The screen shattered. "I've had enough of your games, Jennifer. Enough of your lies." Jennifer backed away towards the balcony and raised her hands defensively. "David, please calm down. You're drunk. Let's talk about it when—" "I'm not drunk." He walked towards her. "I'm clear-headed for the first time in years. I can finally see what you really are. A lying, cheating whore who's been making a fool of me." "I never cheated on you." Jennifer's voice broke. "I remained faithful to you through everything, through your anger, your accusations, your violence. I loved you, even when you made it impossible to love you." Something in David's face changed. The anger turned into something colder, something more calculating. "You want to leave me," he said quietly. "I can see it. You plan to leave me." Jennifer's silence was answer enough. "After everything I've done for you," David continued, his voice now eerily calm, "after everything I've sacrificed, you just want to throw away 13 years. You've hurt me, David, for years. I can't live like this anymore." "You can't live like this." He laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. "You just want to leave me, divorce me, take half of everything and ride off into the sunset." "I just want to be safe," Jennifer whispered. "Safe?" David moved closer. "You don't feel safe with me, after I've protected you, cared for you, and loved you. That's not love, David. Love doesn't look like that." The blow came so fast that Jennifer didn't see it coming. Her head snapped to the side. Her ears rang. She tasted blood. "Don't you dare tell me what love is." David grabbed her by the throat and slammed her against the balcony railing. "I gave you everything!" Jennifer clung to his hands and gasped for air. In her panic, she struggled to get the words out. "You are killing me." For a moment, David loosened his grip slightly. Jennifer saw something flash in his eyes. Awareness, perhaps even horror, at what he was doing. Then it was gone. His hands tightened around her again. "If I can't have you," he said quietly, "no one can." 8:47 p.m. Room 827. What happened next was later reconstructed by forensic investigators, hotel surveillance cameras, and witness statements. But the basic facts were undisputed. On 25 June 2019, at approximately 8:47 p.m., Jennifer Morrison's body fell from the balcony of room 827 on the 8th floor of the Royal Caribbean Resort in Cancún, Mexico. She landed on the pool deck below. Guests screamed. Staff rushed to the scene. Someone called an ambulance, although it was immediately clear that no ambulance could help. The fall had been fatal. Within minutes, hotel security reached room 827. They found David Morrison on the balcony, crying hysterically. "She jumped," he sobbed. "I tried to stop her, but she jumped. Oh God, she jumped." But David Morrison had made crucial mistakes born of arrogance, of believing that his years as a police officer had taught him how to stage a scene, of underestimating the thoroughness of investigators whose job it is to see through lies. He didn't know that a guest in room 726 had heard the argument through the ceiling. He didn't know that the surveillance cameras in the hallway had recorded his aggressive body language when they returned from the beach. He didn't know that Jennifer's broken mobile phone would be found and forensically examined. Above all, he didn't know that Jennifer had left behind evidence that would speak for her even after her death. The former Texas police officer, who believed he could literally get away with murder, had just made the worst mistake of his life. And Jennifer Morrison's story, her fight for justice, had only just begun. The pool deck of the Royal Caribbean Resort had turned into a crime scene within minutes. Yellow tape surrounded the area where Jennifer Morrison's body lay covered with white sheets. Hotel guests were led away, many in tears, traumatized by what they had seen. The Mexican Federal Police arrived at 9:15 p.m. They're led by Detective Inspector Rodrigo Morales, a 20-year veteran of homicide investigation who had seen more accidental deaths in the resorts of Cancún than he could count. Most were genuine accidents, drunk tourists falling from balconies, drowning in pools, or misjudging their limits in paradise. But Morales had learned to trust his instincts. And something about this case immediately struck him as odd. In room 827, he found David Morrison sitting on the bed, his head in his hands, grieving. 2 hotel security guards stood nearby, watching him intently. "Mr. Morrison?" Morales spoke in accented but clear English. "I'm Detective Inspector Morales. I need to ask you some questions about the incident." David looked up, his face streaked with tears. "She jumped," he said in a broken voice. "My wife, she jumped. I tried to grab her, but I couldn't reach her in time. Can you tell me what led to this? Was your wife depressed? Did she have mental health issues?" "She had been stressed lately," David said cautiously. "Problems at work. She had mentioned feeling overwhelmed. I thought this holiday would help her, but I guess I was wrong." Morales took notes, his expression neutral. "Did you argue tonight?" "No, nothing like that. We had a nice dinner and came back to the room. She went out onto the balcony to look at the sea. I was in the bathroom. Then I heard her scream and—" David's voice faltered convincingly. "I ran out and she was gone." "You heard her scream?" "Yes, a scream full of fear. That's why I ran." Morales nodded slowly. "If she jumped on purpose, why did she scream?" David blinked. The question had taken him by surprise. I don't know. Maybe she changed her mind at the last second. Maybe—" "And you said you tried to grab her?" "Yes. I reached out for her, but I missed her." "Ooh, show me how you were standing when you tried to grab her." David stood up and walked to the balcony. Morales and the security guards followed him. David demonstrated how he leaned over the railing and reached into the void. Morales looked at the height of the railing, about 1.20 meters. "How tall was your wife?" 1.68 meters. "It would be difficult for someone of that height to accidentally fall over this railing, even more so for someone climbing over it intentionally. And you say you tried to stop her, but your hands show no signs of defense, no scratches, no signs of a struggle. It happened so fast." We need to take photos of your hands and arms, Mr. Morrison. It's standard procedure. David's jaw tensed almost imperceptibly. Of course, whatever helps the investigation. But Morales had already seen what he needed. The small abrasions on David's knuckles, the faint scratches on his forearms, the redness around his wrists, suggesting that someone had grabbed him and tried to pull his hands away. These were signs of a struggle, not suicide. The evidence speaks for itself. While Morales questioned David, forensic scientists examined the room. What they found would prove decisive. Jennifer's smashed mobile phone on the wall, thrown with force, not dropped. The blood on the balcony railing where her head had hit before she fell. Defensive wounds on Jennifer's hands and arms, documented by the coroner. Skin cells under her fingernails. David's DNA, later confirmed. Perhaps most incriminating, however, was what the hotel surveillance provided. Footage from the camera in the hallway showing David and Jennifer returning from the beach at 4:32 p.m. David's body language was aggressive. He walked ahead and jerked his arm away when Jennifer tried to touch him. Jennifer's posture was defensive, submissive. At 8:12 p.m., the same camera briefly filmed the two again near the ice machine. David grabbed Jennifer's upper arm so tightly that she visibly flinched. This was not a couple in love on holiday. This was a predator and his prey. Maria's call. Back in San Antonio, Maria Santos had been obsessively checking her phone since Tuesday morning. Jennifer usually texted her several times a day. The silence was deafening. At 11:47 p.m. Central Time, Maria's phone finally rang. Unknown international number. "Hello? Are you Maria Santos?" A male voice that sounded official. "Yes?" "Ms. Santos, this is Detective Inspector Rodrigo Morales from the Mexican Federal Police in Cancún. I'm calling about Jennifer Morrison. I understand you are listed as her emergency contact." Maria's world stopped. "What happened? Is Jennifer okay?" "I'm very sorry to inform you that Ms. Morrison died in an incident at her hotel this evening." "No." The word came out as a whisper. "No, that's impossible. I know this is very difficult for you. Her husband claims she jumped from her balcony. However, we have reason to believe that this is not the truth. Mrs. Santos, I need to ask you some questions about Jennifer's relationship with her husband." Through her tears, Maria told him everything. The abuse, the escalating violence, Jennifer's fear, her plan to leave David after the holiday. The text message from Tuesday saying they had arrived safely, the last message she would ever receive from her best friend. "She told me she was scared," Maria sobbed. "She said she had a bad feeling about this trip. I told her not to go. I told her not to go." "Mrs. Santos, what you are telling me is very important evidence. Would you be willing to make a formal statement?" "Yes, whatever it takes. That monster killed her. I know it was him. We're building a case. But I want to be honest with you. This is going to be complicated. Mr. Morrison is a former police officer. He knows how investigations work. He's already hired a solicitor, and international cases are always difficult." "He can't get away with this," Maria said resolutely. "Jennifer deserves justice." "I agree," Morales said quietly, "and I promise you that I will do everything in my power to make sure he doesn't." David's mistake. At 2:30 a.m., David was taken to a local police station for further questioning. He had called an American lawyer who specialized in helping U.S. citizens with Mexican legal matters. The lawyer advised him not to say anything more without legal counsel present, but David's arrogance, his fundamental belief that he was smarter than everyone else and that his years as a police officer gave him an advantage, led him to make a crucial mistake. "I want to go home," he said to Morales. "I've answered your questions. My wife died in a tragic accident. I need to get back to Texas to arrange the funeral." "You can go," Morales said. "We are not pressing charges against you at this time." David felt triumphant. He had done it. He had convinced them. However, Morales continued, I must inform you that I will be forwarding my complete report to the Texas authorities, and Mrs. Santos has provided us with very detailed information about your history of domestic violence. David's face turned pale. That woman is lying. She never liked me. For years she's been trying to turn Jennifer against me. The coroner found defensive wounds on your wife's body, bruises in various stages of healing, evidence of long-term physical abuse. Jennifer bruised easily. Her skin cells were found under your fingernails, Mr. Morrison, from tonight, as she fought for her life while you strangled her and threw her off that balcony. David stood up abruptly. I've said enough. I want my solicitor. That's your right, Morales said calmly. Enjoy your flight home, Mr. Morrison. Something tells me you'll be returning to Mexico very soon, in handcuffs. David Morrison left Cancun on 27th June, convinced he had gotten away with murder. He had no idea that his nightmare was just beginning. David Morrison's flight landed at San Antonio International Airport at 1:45 p.m. He had spent the entire flight rehearsing his story and perfecting his portrayal as a grieving husband. Jennifer's death was a tragedy, a terrible accident. She'd been struggling with depression and had jumped before he could stop her. He had almost convinced himself that it was true. At the baggage carousel, he was met by two San Antonio police detectives, his former colleagues Lisa Chen and Marcus Rivera. David, Chen said quietly, we need to talk. I just lost my wife, David said in a hollow voice. Can't this wait? No, Rivera said firmly. It can't. They took him to an interrogation room at the police station in the city center, the same building where David had worked for 15 years. The irony of the situation did not escape him. Chen laid photos on the table, Jennifer's body, the balcony, the defensive wounds. The Mexican authorities are calling it murder, David. They have requested your extradition. That's crazy. Jennifer jumped. We spoke to Maria Santos. Rivera interrupted him. She told us everything, the abuse, the threats, Jennifer's plan to leave you. David's carefully constructed mask began to crumble. Maria is lying. She always hated me. She turned Jennifer against me. We looked at Jennifer's medical records, Chen continued. Emergency room in March 2018. Concussion, black eye. You told the doctors she fell. She did fall. The bruises were photographed at her dentist's office, Rivera added. Her colleagues noticed. They were concerned. This is a witch hunt. David stood up abruptly. You're trying to get me because I'm a former police officer. Chen's voice was ice cold. You killed your wife, David. You threw her off the 8th floor balcony because she wanted to leave you, and we're going to prove it. I want a solicitor. Wise decision, said Rivera. You're going to need one. The media frenzy. By evening, news vans surrounded David's house. Former SAPD officer under suspicion for death of his wife in Cancun ran across local news channels. Neighbors, who had always considered the Morrisons a perfect couple, were shocked. He seemed so normal, one neighbor told reporters. Always polite. You never know what happens behind closed doors. But some had their suspicions. The neighbor recalled hearing arguments. She had seen Jennifer with bruises. I should have called someone, she said through tears. Maybe she would still be alive. A storm of outrage erupted on social media. Jennifer's dental practice published a memorial post with photos of her smiling with patients, always friendly, always caring. The comments were full of anger towards David, demands for justice, and stories from other survivors of domestic violence. Maria organized a vigil in a local park. Hundreds attended, holding candles, sharing memories of Jennifer, and demanding that David face the consequences. Jennifer was trapped, Maria told the crowd, her voice breaking. Trapped by fear, by love, by the hope that he would change. She died trying to escape. We must not let her death be in vain. The arrest. On 15th of July 2019, 3 weeks after Jennifer's death, David Morrison was arrested at his home and charged with murder. The Mexican authorities had officially requested his extradition, and Texas agreed to hold him in custody until the proceedings were completed. His bail was set at $2 million. As officers led him away in handcuffs, photographers captured his face, no longer the charming ex-policeman, but a cornered predator whose mask had finally slipped. Jennifer Morrison's fight for justice had begun. After nearly 2 years of legal maneuvering, David Morrison's trial finally began in San Antonio. The COVID-19 pandemic had delayed the proceedings, but the prosecution was determined. It had built a watertight case. Lead prosecutor Sarah Martinez presented damning evidence. Forensic reports documenting Jennifer's defensive injuries, witness testimony about the couple's violent past, hotel surveillance videos showing David's aggressive behavior, and Maria's emotional account of her best friend's ordeal. Jennifer Morrison fought for her life in her final moments, Martinez told the jury. She clung to her husband's hands as he strangled her. She tried to break free as he lifted her over the balcony railing. Her last conscious thought was probably why the man she had loved for 13 years was murdering her. David's defense lawyers argued that the evidence was only circumstantial. They portrayed Jennifer as mentally unstable and claimed that she jumped while David desperately tried to save her. But the jury did not believe them. The verdict. On 24th of March 2021, after 6 hours of deliberation, the jury announced their verdict, guilty of first-degree murder. David Morrison showed no emotion when the verdict was announced, but in the public gallery, Maria Santos burst into tears, not out of grief, but out of relief. Jennifer had received justice. When delivering the sentence, the judge showed no mercy. "Mr. Morrison, you used your training as a police officer to evade justice. You murdered your wife in cold blood and then tried to manipulate the investigation. You are a disgrace to the badge you once wore." Sentence: life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Jennifer's legacy. Maria established the Jennifer Morrison Foundation, which provides resources to victims of domestic violence who want to leave abusive relationships. "Jennifer didn't have to die," Maria said at the foundation's launch. "If she had had better support and better resources, she might still be alive." The foundation helps women develop safe exit strategies and provides financial support, legal assistance, and emergency shelter. In its first 2 years, it helped 347 women escape dangerous situations. Jennifer's dental practice established an annual scholarship in her name for dental hygiene students to ensure that her kindness and commitment to others live on. The warning signs. Jennifer Morrison's story is tragically not uncommon. According to statistics, domestic violence escalates when victims try to separate. The most dangerous time for victims of abuse is when they try to end the relationship. Jennifer Morrison was 38 years old when she died. She deserved a life full of love, not fear. She deserved to grow old, find happiness, live in safety. Instead, she became another statistic, one of thousands of women killed by their partners every year. But her death was not in vain. Through Maria's dedication, through the foundation named after her, through the hundreds of women who have escaped dangerous situations because of Jennifer's story, her legacy lives on. David Morrison will spend the rest of his life in prison, exactly where he belongs, and Jennifer Morrison has finally found peace.